In April 1950, America is afraid, not of Soviet tanks, but of its own citizens. In Washington, Senator Joseph McCarthy waves his lists of alleged communists. Names, rumors, careers, all fall into the fire. Actors, teachers, soldiers, no one is beyond suspicion. The House Un-American Activities Committee fills the headlines, and a nation built on freedom begins to whisper instead of speak. The Cold War has found its battlefield inside American minds. Even as President Truman's advisors draft the secret blueprint of NSC 68, the country is already at war, not abroad, but within. In Bucharest, the revolution begins devouring its own children. Lucrețiu Pătrășcanu, a communist from the first hour, a man who helped bring the regime to power, is arrested in silence. His crime is not treason, but thought. He dreamed of a socialism that could speak Romanian, a path loyal to Marx but not enslaved to Moscow. For that dream, he disappears into the cells of the Securitate, proof that in Stalin's orbit, even loyalty can be fatal. Across the country, fear becomes policy. Collectivization sweeps through the villages, and the prisons fill with peasants who refuse to surrender their land. Posters of Stalin rise above the streets, while whispers of Titoism haunt even the most faithful party members. Romania is no longer a country. It is a laboratory of obedience. Across the heart of Europe, Germany is splitting in two, not by bombs this time, but by ideas. In Bonn, Chancellor Adenauer speaks of Europe, of freedom, of rebuilding. In Berlin, Walter Ulbricht preaches loyalty to Moscow and the purity of socialism. Between them, a line of barbed wire begins to take shape, invisible but already deadly. Families are divided, factories dismantled, loyalties tested. In Washington, plans emerge to arm the West once more, to make West Germany the shield of a new alliance. Moscow answers with threats and silence, and secret orders to raise its own. Two nations now stare at each other across the ruins of one. The wall is not yet built, but the world can already see its shadow. Britain still calls itself an empire, but its grip is slipping, one colony at a time. At home, the ration books are still on the table, and the Treasury counts every bullet sent overseas. In the jungles of Malaya, the British fight a war no one in London wants to name. Against guerrillas they call bandits, but who see themselves as freedom fighters. Villages are fenced, civilians displaced, and the line between pacification and punishment blurs in the heat. Each ambush costs more than money, it costs belief. For the first time, British soldiers wonder not how to win, but why they are there at all. From the swamps of Malaya to the highlands of Kenya, the empire is beginning to understand that it can no longer command obedience, only resistance. In Paris, France is rebuilding its cities, its pride, its place in the world. Factories hum again, ministers speak of unity, of cooperation, of a new Europe rising from the ruins. But far away, another France is fighting a war it refuses to name. In the jungles of Indochina, the Viet Minh grow stronger, now armed and supplied by communist China. Each victory for Ho Chi Minh erodes the illusion of control, yet the government clings to words like mission and civilization. Across North Africa, the same whispers spread. Independence, reform, dignity. From Algiers to Saigon, the empire breathes but no longer believes. France stands between two destinies, one built on hope, the other on denial, and both are running out of time. Across Asia, the map is changing. Mao's armies march south, not as invaders, but as a new order claiming its empire. On the mainland, landlords are denounced, factories seized, and villages learn to speak the language of equality and fear. On April 22, communist forces take Hainan, the nationalists' last stronghold beyond Formosa. The sea closes behind them like a door. From now on, Taiwan is exile, not a launch pad. In Beijing, red banners rise above the forbidden city, and Stalin's approval seals the alliance. The revolution has found its rhythm, and the old China, the China of dynasties and generals, has vanished beneath it. Under American watch, Japan is being rebuilt, not just its cities, but its purpose. The ruins of Tokyo give way to new factories, the silence of defeat replaced by the hum of machines. Behind the slogans of peace, Washington is already planning for war. A new police force is formed, unarmed in name, armed in intent. Communists are purged, unions broken, textbooks rewritten. The rising sun no longer shines for empire, but for industry, obedience, and order. In the coming storm of Asia, Japan will not fight, but it will build the arsenal for those who do. On the Indian subcontinent, the wounds of partition are still fresh. But the two newborn nations already walk in different directions. In New Delhi, Nehru speaks of peace, of independence, of a world beyond blocks. India will trade with both East and West and bow to neither. Across the border, Pakistan looks to Washington. Prime Minister Liaquat Ali Khan sees in the United States a shield against poverty, against India, against irrelevance. The same border that split families now divides ideologies. One nation seeks moral leadership, the other protection. And in the mountains of Kashmir, the silence between them is the sound of a war not yet over. 2 years after its birth, Israel lives like a man who sleeps with one eye open. The ceasefires have silenced the guns, but not the hatred beyond its borders. To the south, British troops still guard the Suez Canal. To the east, Jordan holds Jerusalem's old city. To the north, Syria fortifies the Golan Heights. Inside Israel, the streets of Tel Aviv fill with new arrivals, Holocaust survivors, exiles from Baghdad and Casablanca, each carrying a past the desert cannot erase. In April 1950, the Knesset passes the Maud Return, opening the gates to every Jew, everywhere. But for every ship that docks in Haifa, another wall rises in the minds of its neighbors. Peace is no longer expected, only endurance. In the years after the war, Nigeria, Britain's largest African colony, begins to stir. The empire calls it preparation for self-government, a polite phrase for holding on a little longer. In Lagos, clerks and journalists talk of elections and freedom. In the north, the emirs rule through custom and caution. 3 regions, 3 faiths, 3 futures, stitched together by an empire running out of thread. By 1950, political parties are forming along old lines of tribe and tongue. Each promises progress, but only for its own. To London it looks orderly, a model colony learning democracy. But history will remember it differently, as the moment when unity was drawn on a map, not yet in the hearts of its people. In Mexico, progress has a rhythm, the sound of engines, typewriters, and construction cranes. President Miguel Alemán promises a modern nation, highways through the desert, schools in the hills, and a new skyline for Mexico City. The country looks stable, prosperous, democratic. But the elections are managed, the unions tamed, the press polite. Power belongs to one party, and it plans to keep it that way. In the cafes of the capital, intellectuals talk of liberty, while farmers still wait for the land they were promised a generation ago. For now, the illusion holds, a nation between revolution and repetition, dancing to the tune of progress, conducted from above. Freedom came to Indonesia not with peace, but with exhaustion. 4 years of war against the Dutch had ended, and yet the guns had not fallen silent. Jakarta spoke of unity. One people, one nation, one destiny. But across the islands, the word meant different things. In Ambon, in Sulawesi, new flags rose, republics within the republic. The Dutch were gone, but their maps remained, and every line they had drawn now bled. Sukarno dreams of an Indonesia whole and proud, but the young republic is already fighting itself, a country too vast to hold and too young to break.